Hello, Jersey Nation. It's your boy, Jersey Boy, and we're back at it again this week, getting ready to face the Baltimore Ravens. It's been a very long season for us, and we are looking forward to the end of this, which might ultimately culminate in us reaching the playoffs for the first time in since the 2010-2011 season. Curtis Martin leading the helm for us as the head coach of the New York Jets, and he's been able to pull out as much talent as possible out of this team, which in all reality probably should be finishing 2-14, whereas we may be able to finish here with a record of probably 9-7, potentially. Lamar Jackson throwing for almost 3,500 yards and 25 touchdowns on the season. He does have 15 interceptions, but he is a dual threat, so he's racking up yards on the field, running in addition to using his talented arm there. Now, this Ravens offense has not been suited for his capabilities just yet, so it'll be interesting to see how they evolve this team as we progress through this franchise. As you can see there, the talented offensive line that they have, and Mark Andrews essentially leading the way for their receiving group there. I'm interested to hear from you guys. What do you think the main focus of our offseason is to be? We're deficient in quite a few areas, especially on the offensive side. Essentially, depending on how you feel, we need everything but a quarterback. We have Le'Veon Bell in the running back position, as they break off a good chunk play here, and Adams already secures his forced fumble for the game. As we were speaking about, we do have Le'Veon Bell in our running stable, but I'm unsure what I want to do with him, depending on how the offseason plays out for us. I am thinking about potentially trading him to try to get even more draft capital. My goal here is to make this team a lot younger towards the soon as next season can start. Actually, if we can really decrease the overall age for this group, that'd be fantastic. I would much rather spend my time developing younger talent rather than having to worry about which veterans we're re-signing on a team that hasn't performed very well. And we just get outran on the edge here, so we do force another fumble, and we get to take it back for a few yards. However, the review does come back, and we can see the fumble did come after the runner had already hit the field, so they do continue their onslaught against us as Lamar Jackson here secures another 10 or 11 yard pass. We've been trying everything we can. Curtis Martin really has done an excellent job. The play calling hasn't been great, which we can probably contribute to the lack of talent rather than any issues with the offensive coordinator or the head coach. The defense has been our bread and butter, so as you can see, we have a few stalwarts on our team. We have a young Quinnen Williams that's in the middle of our defensive line, CJ Mosley at the second, and the vaunted Jamal Adams leading the third tier of our defensive group back there. So really, we have the capability, as they try a wide receiver screen here, we really have the capability to essentially add pieces that will help support the talent we already have in place rather than really needing to look for anything specific, which is great news for the defensive side. Offense is where the majority of our focus is going to be. Mark Ingram puts up almost 100 yards and a touchdown last week. It'll be interesting to see what he does against our defense here. We have been pretty great in terms of defense. The only reason we've gotten as far is because we've essentially been anywhere from the second to fifth leading defense in the league this season. Lamar Jackson looked like he was in trouble, was able to get out of the pressure we were forcing there, running to his left and just outspeeding the rest of our offense. We have had great luck in the health department with our team. We've had one injury all season to a backup safety, and he was only out for about 4 weeks with a bruised shoulder, I believe. Lamar Jackson sits back. He just waits. It's not really pressured, and he runs it in for a score. So on their first series, the Baltimore Ravens go 7-0. Sam Darnold has struggled, but he will put up at least 3,000 yards for the season, barring any injury, and hopefully he'll at least hit double-digit touchdowns. We are well beyond about 3/4 of the way through the season, and we've only been able to score 9 touchdowns through the air for this season, which speaks wonders about how talented this offense is, all puns intended, and all sarcasm. We do strike a 13-yard play on our first time lining up here, which is great to see. The tight ends have been kind of a focal point since we don't have much talent in the receiving department, and you can see one goes off the hands there of Quincy Enunwa. I made the decision to pick him to be kind of the centerpiece of our receiving core. Instead of rolling with Robbie Anderson, I felt like Quincy Enunwa potentially had the better upside. He has an interesting mix of size and speed, where we've utilized him over the first course of the few seasons we've had him as a hybrid tight end, of course. Hope to continue that trend. And we see the Ravens defense here, which has no shortage of playmakers throughout. They do lack some depth, but the pieces they have starting are high-end players. So it essentially factors out anything that they would struggle with when they're substituting, since it's not likely they're doing it. One of many sacks again that we see here. So not only throughout this game, but throughout the course of the season. You can see we're still leading our division in the playoff hunt. However, after last week's loss, the Bills and the Dolphins do scoot up quite a bit. So if we lose that division stranglehold that we have, which isn't so tight, we could potentially be out of the playoffs altogether. So on one hand, I don't favor tanking whatsoever. You gain experience from winning and building culture that way. But that would do wonders for our draft position, all things considered. So we could potentially drop down to maybe the 16th slot instead of being somewhere in the low 20s, which will help, especially if we want to move up and secure some certain talents. There is a center that I've kind of fallen in love with in this draft, and he could be the future for the middle of our line, and we've had great success there. Nick Mangold and Kevin Mawai has essentially held down that position for the better part of 2 decades for us, and we can see a great play by Le'Veon Bell there, being able to bounce off 2 incoming tacklers and make something out of a play that would have cost us yardage. Sam Darnold, once again, a run play, and this time we just get tripped up before we're able to make any moves. So we turn it back over, and on the option, Lamar is able to fake out our linebacking core, which we don't have speed on the end to really keep up with a quarterback of his caliber. We would struggle against types like Cam Newton, not necessarily all running backs, but those with a fair amount of speed would definitely cause us issues. Lamar Jackson tries to get away there, and he does run into a sack by Quinnen Williams, adding another half sack to his season total. And he's producing pretty solid rookie numbers for us, which I'm very happy to see. He took his hidden development talents. Oh, that would have been a great play if Enunwa was able to make it. He took his hidden development, turned that into a superstar trait, and he's continued his progression very nicely throughout the season. I'm hoping we can get maybe 1 or 2 more developments from him, and at this point continue to increase some of his pass rushing capabilities. I do think he can be a force for us in the middle as more of just an elite run defender. We're able to secure a first down here, and we do have quite a few nice running plays, all things considered, and the Ravens losing Tony Jefferson II could potentially hurt them and open some things for us up throughout this game. It's only the second quarter. The Ravens are only up a touchdown for now. We've been able to contain him as best as possible, and we can see him going to the locker room, which doesn't bode well. He's holding his forearm there, so it could have been a broken bone or something of that sort. Sam Darnold lining back up on a 2nd and 1. We have a short play here. Sam Darnold under pressure, but he's able to deliver a strike here. And that's great news for us to see. We do get chunk plays in bulk sometimes when they do happen. Sam Darnold putting one slightly behind Quincy Enunwa, which leads to a hit jarring the ball loose there for us. But I think the rest of this season is more so about just trying to continue to increase the developmental skills of some of our core players. So, you know, the Jamal Adams, the CJ Mosleys, the Quentin Williams on the defensive side, and Sam Darnold on the offense. We didn't really have anybody else that would have been worth it, as they block a field goal and there is nobody around or in front of him to stop this from going back for a touchdown. So the Ravens not only stop us from putting up a 3 points on the board, but they turn it into another touchdown. We try to work out a wide receiver screen, which happens to suit us slightly well. Quincy Nunwell picks up 5 rushing yards since it was behind the line of scrimmage. He makes a play happen, which otherwise would have resulted in a loss. Sam Darnold delivers a strike over the middle of the field. And we can see his talent when he does get a few moments to actually get a chance to survey the field. We get stopped here in the back. Le'Veon Bell going nowhere. On another run play, it just slowly develops, which was really odd. Maybe everybody was not on the same page as we look to get past that snap. We do end up turning the ball back over. Lamar Jackson tries to do a little bit too much and gets into a sack trying to out-juke us. He flushes to his left again, though, where he's had a little bit more success and almost outruns a defender, but we do get a gang tackle in there to limit the damage that would have occurred. So I really want to see this game matchup and see how would we counteract somebody of his skills. Not the best arm talent just yet, but he does do wonders in the running game for his team. I'm sure supporting quite a bit of yardage. He's averaging so far about 80 yards in both in the passing game, and about 20 in the running game. But he does already have a touchdown against us, as we've seen early in the first quarter. Our 3-4 alignment, I'd like to keep. Our defensive line talent has been pretty stout. So I think once we're able to improve this linebacking core, we have CJ Mosley back there. Avery Williamson, I think we might be able to move on from in the offseason. Depending on really the draft, free agency, I'm not worried about so much. I take on the mentality of the former Packers, since they went on a spending spree recently. That might seem to be the trend moving forward. I really want to reward our own players for performing up to, you know, where we drafted them at, or outperforming their draft slot and excelling, rather than bringing in new talent to replace them. Think about a job, I like the promotions to be in-house. Lamar Jackson finds a wide open receiver there, and we find ourselves in a depth coming from that first round or first quarter, and we fall 21-0 pretty quickly. We have to turn around on the special teams play that led to a touchdown, and Lamar Jackson makes 2 great plays there. One with his feet, one through the air, just being able to read the field and see what the defense was giving him. Sam Darnold still trying to do whatever he can to keep our team in the game, but we're coming up on halftime here, and we haven't had much success whatsoever. We'll see how our 2-minute offense does. Sam Darnold finds one of his playmakers there for about 6 or 7 yards. 3rd and 10. We're hoping to see if we can convert, maybe march down the field and pick up a late score before we lead into the third quarter. Keep this a 2-possession game. Sam Darnold just ends up having to throw this away after sensing the pressure. So you can see the offensive line woes really getting to him. As the punt, we do get down at the 1, but they're able to create some wiggle room there for them to continue either pursuing, maybe getting another score, or just not being forced to have to kick the ball before they're ready to. Lamar Jackson gets another completion here, and they do nothing more of note there. So 21-0. Ravens are up. They're not really outscoring us so much in the offensive yardage department, but they're executing their plays. The biggest thing for us, and the 7 wins that we were able to secure so far, was 1, our defensive talent and the key plays they were making in terms of all the fumbles Jamal Adams were getting and CJ Mosley was forcing, and our luck with recovering those fumbles We haven't had so much great luck in the interception department, but we just make plays. The defense gets stops when we really need them to, putting our offense in great positions at times, and in other times they're just forcing turnovers when they can. If it wasn't for that, we very easily would be 0-16, taking a look at the trends from the first 14-15 weeks or so for us. Very grateful for them, and I'll be interested to see if they are able to continue or improve on that moving into the second season. We take another loss here on the running play, and Le'Veon Bell goes down with an injury holding his hip, potentially his lower back. We hope that that isn't a major problem, although if he does have to sit out for the season, it will not be that problematic, because we try to get 3 points on the board, and Catanzaro just doesn't have the leg strength to even keep us in the game from a special team standpoint. He's been fairly ineffective for us throughout the season, so having a kicker we can rely on is also going to be of great importance for us. Make sure when we do improve this offense, if plays do run dry as people try to build chemistry and get used to the playbook with the influx of the young talent and not a whole lot of veteran leadership, unless we can get Sam Darnold to take a massive step forward depending on said talent. Oh, Lamar Jackson continues to drop back, and he's really just taking advantage of whatever the defense has been able to let up. We can't guard everyone. We know they're a strong running team. They don't have the best passing offense, but since they run the option offense, there's never too much certainty on who we need to actually key in on. And we do pick up a nice sack there. Brandon Copeland. It's been a good secondary contributor for us. And Lamar Jackson almost secures a 3rd and 15 for a first down. They kick a field goal here, and this puts them up 24-0 as they continue to hold down a blowout over the New York Jets. And luckily we aren't home. We'd be hearing quite a few boos, I would imagine. Sam Darnold finds one of his playmakers over the middle. We've been pretty inept so far throughout the 3 quarters of play that we have had. Not great success in the running department, and losing Le'Veon Bell did not really help us out whatsoever. Ty Montgomery's taking over in the short term, and BAL will be following suit as well. I'm not sure, depending on if Le'Veon Bell does need to miss time, what we're going to do with the running game and who's going to take over. Not sure it'll affect too much what we've been doing from an offensive standpoint, but we'll see. But like BAL maybe has a little bit more wiggle. So today we have done an excellent job against Mark Ingram, 11 yards on just 10 carries. And we've seen some running games like that from Le'Veon Bell. And throughout the course of some other great runners we've seen, Saquon Barkley, we were able to kind of keep locked down in the same manner. Lamar Jackson trying to get out of this 15-yard range from a safety. And he throws a quick strike over the middle. I thought we might have had a chance, depending on the awareness of some of our linebackers there, to actually do something about that particular play. Doesn't turn out to be the case. And this game is turning pretty ugly for us. Whenever it looks like we do have a good setup, something goes wrong, which allows them to make a completion, key first down, or just a big chunk play for them, which we really can't afford. But they set themselves up well for another first down here, as they're looking at a 3rd and 1. You see 2 running backs in the backfield with Lamar, possibly an option, and it's read very well. So we do hold Lamar Jackson down there. One of the few last plays from the 3rd quarter, and Sam Darnold just essentially has to check down. So this game is looking extremely rough for us. We move into the 4th quarter down 24 points, and we don't necessarily have even an offense where we can say we have, a potent playmaker that if we can just get him the ball in his hands, he could potentially turn this around or try to make it a game. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be a wrap for us. We'll see if we can put some points on the board. Sam Darnold overthrows one of his mans there, and that could have potentially gone for maybe a first down, maybe a couple of yards. One of their linebackers gets in on what could have been an easy completion for us, and at this point, we need to go for what we can. So on 4th and 3rd, we make a strike to Quincy Enunwa, who hasn't been the most evolved in the game. We've tried to get him the ball in a number of ways. Wide receiver screens, some slants, a couple hitches, some curl routes. He's had the ball come off of his hand a few times as well, so it hasn't been all Sam Darnold or the pass rush from the Ravens. Sam Darnold hands it off on the 2nd and 6, and we are able to convert. Just great news. Ty Montgomery there doing what he can to make use of this offensive line as we do the same. So it looks like these hesitation runs straight up the middle have proved to be similarly effective. I don't know if that would be because of the only real consistent offensive lineman that we have in the middle of our offensive line, Cody Whitehair, leading some of those plays. Or if we're just getting lucky with some of the strength that we have in the middle, even though they don't necessarily have the technical skills that we need right now. Sam Darnold finds a target in the middle. He gets about 15, 16 yards or so, which is great to see. So, hope you guys are enjoying the increased gameplay that we've seen here as well. I tried to do what I can. We're going to be limited in the 4th quarter here. We don't have that many more plays to show. I can blame it on the editing of the PlayStation. I can't really split or splice some of these clips too much more. So I really just end up cutting out the remainder of the 4th quarter as there was only a few more noticeable plays. I believe the Ravens score another touchdown, and you'll see the only touchdown of the game that we actually are able to score here in a little bit. But one of our first and only times visiting the red zone. And we do make the most of it. As I mentioned, we capitalize on scoring a play here. As you can see, BAL Powell breaking some defenders and running as hard as he can to keep the positive yardage for our team. So Sam Darnold, he looks back, and he ends up getting sacked. So sometimes he's oblivious, and sometimes he gets happy feet. We'll be looking to see if that's a trend that continues, and he floats a beautiful ball there to Quincy Enunwa. Ending the game 31-6. They do block another field goal, but this time they aren't able to run it back. So we did outperform them on the offensive side, as mentioned, and this really came down to them wearing down our defense and them executing on offense. Even without them having the special teams factor with the touchdown in there, we still lose 24-0. 24-6, excuse me. And we can see nobody had great success in the running game here. So both teams did phenomenal, although they were able to get some touchdowns in, whereas we failed in that department. Enunwa getting the only touchdown of the game for us. And our top 3, as normal for us, we generally have Jamal Adams, CJ Mosley, and Brian Poole leading the way here. Tackles for loss, the rookie Polite. We have Jenkins there, and then a few other contributors, which tends to be the norm. Shepard, Quentin Williams, Brandon Copeland getting in there. Jamal Adams scores his usual forced fumble of the game. We didn't have any success in the defensive department this time around with getting any plays made there. So we did get a few upgrades. Cody Whitehair actually gets the increase, and we'll most likely be using our franchise tag on him since we were unable to actually secure a long-term contract with him. And I'm thinking, depending on if we can get the center in the draft that I'm eyeing, we may move him to guard and see if he can adjust there and create a dynamic 1-2 punch from the center. Christopher Herndon increasing his possession capabilities here, so we'll be looking for him to hopefully be a bigger piece of the offensive side for us as well. We're going to get into looking at a little bit more of the scouting. Le'Veon Bell does happen to be out for 6 weeks though, so I was going to place him on the IR, but I think I'll just shuffle around the running back group, see what I want to run with for our next matchup. And we will be facing the Steelers, so that would have been a good storyline, Le'Veon Bell versus his former team, but it is what it is. As mentioned, I'll show you guys a little bit of the scouting. We won't see our big board again until we finish our Week 17 game, but I want to see a little bit more of what this defensive line talent could potentially look like now that we've finished scouting out all of the draftable targets that would be here for us on the offensive line. defensive line does have some pretty good talent, and I know we're stocked on the line, or stacked, but I think it'll be good to kind of keep that cupboard full. I want to keep the talent elite where we can as we try to improve the other areas of the team. We can take a look at the depth chart here. I do want to thank you guys for getting this far and checking out this video with me. It's been great. Can't wait to get to the off season for you guys. Would definitely love any feedback that you guys have. Again, let me know what your insights are on where you feel like we need to place the most importance with building our team moving forward here. We can see they have one of the best offensive lines in the league. Le'Veon Bell used to run behind that, and he's fallen from grace with the New York Jets, but we'll be looking for a very fast, very smooth turnaround. With that said, though, we also are facing a very tough defense, and they have some young players that are great, and they have some veterans that have excelled. But I don't want to take too much more time. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, guys. Much appreciated any feedback you can deliver. It's been your boy, Jersey Boy.